Welcome into the Monday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, back in the saddle. Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning. Joseph, welcome back. How's it going?
Oh, thank you. It's great to be back. It's going all right. Gout's not completely gone, but that's all right. We're getting there, man. We're getting there.
It's improved, would you say?
Yeah, it's improved. I'm wearing flip-flops today, so apologies to you. I'm not gonna put my foot on this chair if I can help it. So
Kuharski was not a huge fan of having sat in that chair the other day, knowing that your foot was in there.
I think I had a sock on my foot though.
You did
when I elevated it.
yes.
Yeah, today I have no sock on the foot. So I will keep it off Kuharski's little chair here then.
He was very upset by that.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I'm sure that really
warms my heart.
Sure that really breaks you up over there. Ian Safar, how we doing? What's going on?
Oh, doing great, guys. Thanks. Looking forward to a fun show reacting to the busy weekend of hockey news and notes.
And that took another turn last night as well. We got a whole lot to get into on the Predators front today.
Ooh,
Corey
boy.
Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. We will get into the NHL draft throughout the show as well and have your full reaction to the selection of Brady Martin at number 5 overall by the Predators, with Porter Martone and James Hagens still on the board. And Joe, I thought that's where we were going to kick things off today on the program. But no, there was a trade last night from the Nashville Predators. And if you're just waking up, you may be just hearing about this. The Predators have reportedly, according to Darren Drager, the first one to break this, traded for Nick Hague, a defenseman from Vegas, and sent back Jeremy Lauzon and Colton Sissons to the Golden Knights. And not only have they made that trade, they have signed an extension for Hague, 4 years at $5.5 million. Now, Hague is a left shot defenseman from Vegas. He's listed at 6'6", 245 pounds. So he is enormous. He is a massive mountain of a man back on defense. And from that standpoint, Barry Trotz has talked about wanting to get bigger on defense. And I remember kind of the moment he took over the job as general manager, talked about Vegas, their defense core, and how big they were and how much that leads to them winning. So Hague is a massive human being that the Predators now have locked up for the next 4 years at $5.5 million per season. Now, my initial thoughts on this, Joe, the trading Lauzon and Sissons part of it, I don't really mind. Like, Lauzon had a lot of injuries last year, and when he's healthy, he's a fine player. But basically, I think they've swapped out what in a perfect world is probably a third pair defenseman in Jeremy Lauzon, maybe a low 2 second pair defenseman. And they brought in Hague, who I think is probably still a third pair defenseman. And now Colton Sissons is gone. And, Colton Sissons was a really good player here for a long time in the role that he played. But I think you can find somebody that plays Colton Sissons' role. The thing that's going to be interesting to me, and I think that Predators fans are going to spend a lot of time talking about today, 4 years at $5.5 million per season for Nick Hague. That seems like a whole lot of money for Nick Hague. And he doesn't score a whole lot. He's your classic stay-at-home defenseman. And there's nothing wrong with having a classic stay-at-home defenseman. $5.5 million per year is a lot of money for that. And I'm interested to see the one pause I have on that in terms of not just totally freaking out at that contract is we know that the cap is going up. And we know that some of these deals that are going to happen both this offseason and free agency and certainly in the next offseason are going to be, you're going to look at the money and you're going to say, good gracious. I mean, it's a lot of money. So that's the one sort of pause I've got from saying, good God, they just gave $5.5 million to Nick Hague.
Yeah, I get that the cap's going up, but you're talking about a guy who his AAV before this was 2.3, which seems more in line with what he is, a third pairing defenseman. So the cap going up 2.3 to 5.5.
It's a heck of a jump.
I'm struggling with that one a little bit. I'm also like I totally hear you on what you're saying. I mean, I don't think the cost is bad in terms of the players going back, but it does kind of stink that Colton Sissons is out of here. Yes, it's time, I think, for some young guys to be able to have a chance and have spots. But it's also kind of sad to see Sissons go. I mean, now you're talking about you got 3 guys left from the glory days where he was the 4th guy.
I mean, he's probably scored the most important goal in the history of the franchise.
Right.
When you think about it. I mean,
and it was his 3rd of the day.
Yeah, that depends on, I guess, your definition of it, because, I mean, there have been players that have scored goals actually in the Stanley Cup final, but his game in Game 6 against Anaheim sent you there.
Got him there.
Yeah.
But so there's that's the sentimental side of it. But just the nuts and bolts, I don't get why, like, Nick Hague wouldn't have taken 3.5, 4.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'll read you something that Adam Vingan just sent me, and it's from AFP Analytics, which is like it's just kind of a firm that focuses in on sports and all that stuff and analytics. And this is the kind of the blurb that they put up about the Nicholas Hague contract. Quote, Hague traded to Nashville and signs a 4-year, $5.5 million contract. Good on him, good on his agent. We can oftentimes come up with comps to justify a deal, even if we don't agree with him. We couldn't here. Acquisition cost plus contract is really questionable for the team. That is the take from AFP Analytics that Adam Vingan has sent me, Joe.
Yeah, and I saw that tweet, and they have like a bunch of charts and graphs there too to try to give you like a comps, which of course, again, like, now look, I think you're right. You hit on something. Like, we're going to see other things that are going to come that you're going to be like, oh geez, really? That happens. And look, in any sport, sometimes you have, even though this is a trade, you have a sign, it's a sign and trade. So, or not, or it's a trade with an extension.
Right.
So it's like free agency, right? Where sometimes you overpay. It just seems a little excessive here.
Oh, and then you get to the structure of the defense, and it's like, okay, where's everybody playing right now? Now, the one thing to continue to keep in mind is, free agency starts tomorrow. The Predators could sign somebody else in free agency, and there's still trades that could be made. So the picture is still probably not yet complete. But I'm looking at it, and it's like, man, it's got a ton of left shot defensemen, and it's Yossi, Shea, and now Nick Hague's in there, and I know they had Lozon in there too. But you've got, if Molendijk makes the team, that's a left shot defenseman. Like, right now, their right shot defensemen are Justin Barron and Nick Blankenburg. And Blankenburg, in my opinion, should be like your 7th guy. Like, I know there's a nice story last year with him and Brady Shea together. Like, I don't think Nick Blankenburg should be regularly playing for you this year if you structure your defense right. So we'll see. But they're just, first off, it screams to me that Yossi's going to have to play on the right with things currently set up the way they are, which is fine. I think he can do that. But, like, I think there are going to be a lot of question marks about Yossi from a health standpoint heading into this year, both from, can he not sustain another concussion, which is a huge concern heading into this year.
Right.
And now the Potts thing. Like, I have no idea how that's going to affect him. Like, the way that Barry Trotz talked about it the other day is he's progressing really well, and they expect him to be able to play at a high level. And look, I hope that's the case. But, he's never gone through this before throughout the NHL season. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. Bottom line is, even with Hague coming in, I still think there's a lot of questions on their defense right now.
Yeah. Obviously, right shot defenseman, I mean, that's a valuable commodity in this league. It's not a high supply anyway. Dante Fabro, Alex Carrier, there's a couple guys who were.
Fabro just signed a deal, by the way.
Shot defenseman. Yeah, what,
4 years at over
$4
$4 million. Yeah.
He'd be okay. I'm so like, what is happening?
I don't know. Like, it's Nick Hague just got paid more than Dante Fabro, and they're completely different.
He's way bigger.
Players,
he's
like,
way bigger than him.
Different. But man, just wow. And then there's the Noah Dobson trade. We talked about Dobson on Friday, and then later that day he gets sent from the Islanders to the Canadians. So there's another right shot hole that's kind of filled there. So
he would have been nice.
There are not a lot of options out there in terms of quality right shot defensemen. I mean, I guess if you're the Predators, you could get involved in the Aaron Ekblad stuff. But now, I mean, you've got Yossi at over $9 million, Shea at $7 million as I punch the microphone. Nick Hague's at $5.5 million. Like, you're already spending a pretty good amount of money on your defense right now, and that's without a quality right shot. So it tells me one of two things. Either they don't care as much about that as everybody else seems to, and they're confident that Yossi moving over to the right, and who knows, like maybe they look at Molendijk. He's like, well, he can play the right. I have no idea. Or they think Justin Barron's going to be really good next year. I mean, maybe that's part of it too. I know they like Justin Barron. I know they do. How much do they like Justin Barron?
Yeah, I'd rather spend zero money on Nick Hague and go get Aaron Ekblad. But I guess are we considering them out? Because I looked at him as one of the guys. I mean, I think that's the guy that Florida is going to have to part with, right?
It's starting to look that way, unless he takes just an incredible discount.
Yeah. I would kind of looked at him as maybe as good a target as there is for the Preds going into this, but maybe not now.
Well, I saw the price tag attached with that last night, and I said, golly, $5.5 million for Nick Hague. So are you gonna go pay another defenseman on top of that? It just doesn't seem like it, because there's still, if you're trying to improve next year's team, which, by the way, we got some things to say on that later. If you're trying to improve next year's team, like, there's still, to me, some work you have to do at forward, right?
Oh, yeah.
Look at their center ice right now. I mean, Trotz got on the radio last week with Stillman and said right now that Svechkov might be their number 2 centerman, which is good for him, but that doesn't speak well to winning immediately in my book, unless he just takes an unbelievable jump from year 1 to year 2. So
there's something else coming.
You would think,
right?
Yeah. I mean, again, I said it last week or the week before. I can't keep up anymore. I always try to leave the picture. It was after they traded for Eric Hall. It's like,
yeah,
well, until the picture is done, it's hard to totally judge it. But the Nick Hague move is very interesting.
Thanks for bringing up Holla. Holla and Hague, get excited. The Killer H's.
I mean, they do have all of a sudden a lot of former Vegas Golden Knights on the team.
Preparation Holla. H. Nashville.
Serial winners.
Yeah, Holla.
There we go.
Hague. Maybe he's just like, I got to make Marchessault feel better.
Yeah.
Let's bring in all these Golden Knights. Marchessault, don't worry, buddy. We got you covered here.
He's happy now.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Your reaction to the Predators trading for Nick Hague from Vegas. Jeremy Lauzon, Colton Sissons going back the other way, reportedly from Darren Dreger. We'll take your thoughts on that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. Preds make a trade last night. Nick Hague coming in from the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Preds signed him to a 4-year deal at $5.5 million per season. And Colton Sissons, Jeremy Lozon going back the other way to Vegas. Taking your thoughts on that move on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. I got one texter that says, the draft is one thing, which, by the way, we'll get to the draft here in a few minutes. But trading Sissons and Lozon for a worse version of Lozon and then paying the guy $5.5 million per year while Columbus played Fabro a fair contract, Trotch's decision-making is making this team worse. He needs to stop thinking with his coach brain, we're never going to compete, and this impending rebuild is going to be awful too. This is from an unnamed texter on the text line.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
Matt says, good morning, boys. What a beautiful morning to feel bad about your hockey team. Is anyone going to be happy today?
Well, hey, Brian says, I like the trade.
Okay.
Hague is 6'6", 245 pounds, and he's also only 26. The Preds need more like him to pound the bleep out of opposing forwards and dole out concussions rather than sustain them. This is from Brian.
Okay. All right. $5.5 million. Dole out some concussions, please.
Here are some concussions that we would like you to hand out. Again, as I said, I don't mind the changing of styles a little bit. Like, they need more guys on defense that can clear out the middle. Like, we've talked about that before. So that part of it doesn't really bother me. It's just the contract. It's 4 years and $5.5 million for this. And maybe this is just sticker shock that I need to get over because this is just what you're going to see with the cap going up the way that it is. But I guess I need to see it first before I look at Nick Hague and it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense for $5.5 million per year.
Yeah. I mean, the underlying numbers aren't very good on him either.
Good. Yeah.
I mean,
he's a third pair guy.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
So,
and you can make, you could argue back and forth on Lozon. I think on a good team, Lozon is also probably a third pair guy. I know that he and Carrier played well a couple of years ago.
They
and they were good.
And played above his level, right?
Yeah, I think, on a really good team, if you're going to compete, Lozon's probably a third pair guy. But, it's just the contract part of it. And so far this offseason, they've traded for Eric Halla and Nick Hague, and they've sent out, Sissons and Lozon. There's still some, free agency tomorrow. So we'll see what they do in free agency. But I still look at what Barry Trotz said last week, talking about, trying to get that winning feeling back and getting back in the playoff mix, and how he feels like, they've got too good of a team right now to be as bad as they were last year. And you can't tell him they don't have good players and all this other stuff. I get it. But that forward group, and specifically that center ice group they've got right now, is not a playoff group. I mean, the Athletic came out last week, kind of in the midst of all this draft stuff, and looked at their actual roster, and they ranked center icemen in the league through quality, 1 through 32. And you know who was dead last in 32nd? The Nashville Predators. Like, that's not a playoff group they've got down the middle right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to get to the draft and all that. I think if you're a fan who is hoping like Brady Martin can be part of the answer this year, I mean, I think that's we can get into it, but I think that's optimistic. The YouTube chat, just getting into everything again, as I get back into this, YouTube chat is just popping today, and there's some people talking about Barry has got to be tanking. He is not tanking. If you're serious, yeah, he's not tanking. He's definitely not tanking.
No,
everything said would strongly rebuke that. And again, like there's more to the picture that we haven't seen. Don't know what it is, but like you said, unless you address that, and I don't know exactly how you do without another trade that's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But unless you do, it's just a huge deficiency right now for a team that is paying a lot of money for other pieces that obviously some of them may bounce back next year. But how does how do they bounce back enough if you aren't stronger down the middle?
Well, and Trotz is taking a lot of heat on our text line right now. He's taking a lot of heat on the YouTube chat. Joe, before all this even happened last night, I knew that this was going to be a show where Trotz was going to take a lot of heat because we're going to talk about the Brady Martin pick coming up. And you had James Higgins, Porter Martone still on the board. And you think back to everything that's happened over the past year. Remember, it was a year ago today that we started talking about with a lot of seriousness the idea of Steven Stamkos becoming a Nashville Predator. And even a year ago today, the Marchessault part of it really hadn't even entered our thought process. That happened on the morning of July 1st, where we're like, hey, Marchessault, could that be something too? That's tomorrow a year. Think about everything that's happened in a year since then. And here's the other thing. Think about moves that they've made since then that have gone right. Not very many of them. I mean, we'll see maybe what's the best move they've made in the last year? Moving on from Wedgwood and getting Hananen.
Okay.
Like, is that the best one?
There you
I'm
go.
serious. Like, that might be the best one with the way that things have played out. I mean, I'd have to go back move by move, but there ain't very many of them to choose from. And look, I don't know if, and maybe Nick Hague comes here and he's exactly the type of player that they're missing on defense, and they just become a whole lot more difficult to play against and more difficult to get to the middle of the ice. And there's no doubt they needed to upgrade their defense. We'll see if they've done it here or not. But Trotz is under fire from this fan base right now. Absolutely under fire. And I understand it. I really do. Like, he's on a run right now of bad moves. And then you look at it if you're a fan and you say, so far your answer this offseason is Eric Halla, who has been here before and, by the way, had a bad year last year. And Nick Hague, who is a third-pair defenseman that you just gave $5.5 million per year to. That's what Preds fans are thinking right now. What are you doing?
And maybe if you had drafted the guy you should have drafted, there'd be some better feeling. But, yeah, it's, it feels a little bit, I don't know if it's quite that, and certainly specifically if you just isolate the pick, I don't think it's that. But I am getting Mike Mayock vibes a little bit. I'm getting some Mike Mayock vibes. Okay, for anybody who's a Raiders fan,
yeah,
just like, does everything have to be against the grain? Like, no, we're gonna do it differently. I mean, again, I'm not saying that's the reasoning for these moves, but it's like sometimes like the obvious answer is the best answer.
Buster on the text line says, I also like the trade. The exchange money has the Preds paying like $700,000 more. So the Ekblad dream is still alive. It also opens up a roster spot for Molendyk, who will be on the roster this year. Well, I don't know that it really does anything for Molendyk. Like, you've swapped out one defenseman for another. So I don't think it changes the Molendyk equation all that much. Molendyk, I think, is going to have a chance to make the team anyway. So I don't think any differently of that right now. He's going to have a chance.
I think
we'll see.
They really need him to make the team to me.
Yeah.
They need a young guy.
Andrew Burnett has wanted him to be on the team the last couple of years. I think they're going to give him a long, hard look to make the team coming up. So I don't think it changes the Molendyk part of this all that much. I understand when you look at the money exchanged that it's not like the Predators are paying that much more money now than they just were with Lauzon and Sissons under contract. But it's more about the allocation of the money. So now that you've got Yossi at over $9 million, Brady Shea at $7 million, and Nick Hague at $5.5 million, are you then going to turn around in free agency and go sign another defenseman for $6, $7, $8 million? That just seems like a lot of money to have on the back end right there. To me.
I think you said earlier, and I think that this means, it's going to be, they're filling this out with young guys in the back end, for better, for worse, which to me means, man, you better do some work with the forward group. Like, I'm with you. I don't even think they're going to get into the Ekblad pursuit.
Oh, and Ekblad may have no interest whatsoever in coming.
Well, sure.
That's the other part of this.
But I think that this takes that off the table.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because I thought that he would have been very worthwhile as a pursuit. But, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, then you need to do something major with your forward group. How? I don't know. Who? No idea.
But there's a big hole. Couple holes that forward right now. 615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more of your reaction to get to on the Preds, the trade that they made last night with Nick Hague coming in, Colton Sissons, Jeremy Lozon going out. We'll get to that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Fungoed out, and around Colin Wilson, who just jumped onto the ice. Pass at center, turned back around by Sissons. Here's Auberg. Sissons, he scores! Pontus Auberg sets up Colton Sissons. It's 2-0 at 8:47. Now a try by Lindholm down in front, and the rebound kicked away to Forsberg. Predators coming back. 4-on-3, but they want to change up on D. So now it's tough. Bust up there on the side.
Yes.
And then they score. Pontus Ahlberg got it back out in front. And the Predators take a 3-1 lead at 3 minutes of the third. 12 seconds remaining in the Anaheim power play. This game tied at 3. On the wall, taken away Järnkrok. Järnkrok out to center. Drops for Sissons. Power play about over for the Ducks. Here now is Järnkrok across for Sissons.
He scores!
Score!
Oh my goodness!
The score! And the Predators take a 4-3 lead as they were killing off the remainder of a penalty.
Colton Sissons, baby, the night of his life in the Western Conference Final in 2017.
What a day that was. And boy, it's really good to hear a lot of Pontus Ahlberg love too.
Yeah.
And for a while we called him Pontus Aberg, but then we were corrected. It was Pontus Ahlberg.
Yeah.
Pontus, who
Apparently
course,
he played a heck of a game.
He
that night.
apparently
He's
did.
all over the highlights.
Well, if I remember correctly, in game 5,
Yes.
when we're all like, "Oh, they're screwed." Yep, Johansson's out, and it was Ahlberg was huge in that
Yeah,
game,
he
wasn't
scored,
he?
yeah.
So Pontus and Sissons, by the way.
I think it was also game 5 where they brought like Pontus out to the podium before the game. It was like him and Colin Wilson, I think. And no one
Playoff
asked a
Colin
single
Wilson.
question to Pontus Ahlberg the whole time in there. And then he goes and scores later that night. Good stuff.
In your face.
It's like, screw you, media. I'm going to go out here and score a goal for you in a playoff game.
I miss Pontus and Mika Salamaki.
mean,
I continually bring him up.
I thought about this last night when I saw the trade. You can make a pretty good argument that the most significant goal and definitely the most significant, non-goal call in the history of the Predators both belong to Colton Sissons.
That's right. That's
in
right.
the same postseason.
Intent to blow. Yeah.
So,
hey, Colton Sissons, man, he was a pro. He was a heck of a player, and I think he's one of those. I think kind of a fan favorite in terms of one of the support players.
Oh,
yeah. Versatile guy. I mean, you think about the line he had, with Watson and Bonino, in in that 18. That President's Trophy team, for example. I mean, he was a heck of a pro, great guy to deal with. He'll be missed.
yeah, I'm interested to see what he can do in Vegas. And then here for the Predators, how do you replace him? Because, they've got your McCarrons of the world that can play down the middle. We know they brought in Halla. So I did, part of the reason when they brought in Halla, I looked at it and I said, that's a little strange. They did have McCarron and Sissons as kind of bottom 6 guys. And I know Halla can play on the wing or at center, so he doesn't necessarily have to be a center. But now this kind of makes a little bit more sense. You've swapped in one veteran for another veteran, and you've still opened up another spot for a young guy here. But I still, looking at their roster as a whole, I get back to, if you're trying to get back in the mix next year and back in the playoffs and everything that Barry Trotz talked about last week, I still look at their center ice depth right now and I say, like, who's playing with Stamkos? Like, who is getting the best out of him? How are you structuring your lines? And Ryan O'Reilly, as good of a player as I think he is, and we've talked about this 1,000 times, Ryan O'Reilly at this stage of your career does not need to be your number 1 center. He just doesn't. And if he is, not that he's a bad player, but he's not a number 1 center at this stage of his career. So,
and by the way, when Barry signed him 2 years ago,
that's what he said.
This year certainly would be the year. Okay, now he's downshifting because we've found this answer, and actually they haven't found anything.
Exactly. So you look at also what's available now. And by the way, some moves that happened over the weekend. Sam Bennett has officially re-signed in Florida. So not that that's any sort of surprise, but if you were a Predators fan hoping that you could get in on that if you made it to free agency, well, he's gone. It looks like Mitch Marner might end up in Vegas.
Yeah,
not that I thought the Predators were ever going to be really in on that to begin with, and he's not a center, so it doesn't help that part of it. But there's not a ton of great options in free agency when it gets down to like helping your team right now at that spot, getting back in the playoffs next year. So is there another trade that Barry Trotz is going to try to cook up here to get this team next season in a spot where they can actually rebound, and try to compete. And look, I heard from some Preds fans on Friday night at Bridgestone Arena, which, by the way, great turnout. Appreciate all the Preds fans that showed up there. And maybe you're right in terms of, well, how much better are they just naturally going to be next year? Like, there's no way they're as bad next year as they were this year. And maybe that's the case. I don't know. Maybe, the year 2 for Stamkos and Marchessault and just playing together longer, maybe they're naturally a little bit better. They are older as well. And also, like, you're talking about a team that was a 68-point team last year, which means if they're going to get back in the playoffs, you've got to be somewhere in most years around 94, 95, 96, 97 points.
About a 27-point uptick to feel good about it.
You know how hard that is to do in the NHL, to have a 27-point difference from one year to the next? It's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. There are a lot of guys who had just below just average years, right? So subpar. So you can have at least some of them return to about what you would expect, and then you're gonna have to have some pleasant surprises. But again, like, how do those things happen if you're that deficient down the middle?
Right. Well, yeah, also some people asking about the Hague move, and could this be a signal that Roman Josi, either they expect him to maybe not be available at some point this year, or if he's already, like, if they're just going to put him on long-term injured reserve. That's not happening. Like, I mean, I don't think they're sitting here making stuff up when it comes to they feel good about his progress and all those things. Now, how it's going to end up playing out with Josi, with his POTS diagnosis this year, I have no idea. Like, Trotz brought up Katie Ledecky last week and how she's been able to handle it. From all the indications that I've gotten, Yosi's recovery here and kind of dealing with this now is going extremely well. So, and I know they put out a video of him over the weekend talking to all the draft picks. Like, they're expecting him to play. Now, we'll see if he's on some sort of management plan at any point. And, Adam has talked about the idea of, like, does he get to a point where maybe he doesn't play in the back-to-backs? I don't know. Like, I have no idea how any of that's going to go. But they didn't make the Nick Hague move because Roman Josi's going on long-term injured reserve in 2 days.
Yeah. Like, so, and I assume people saying that because a few different people have thrown it out there. Maybe does this have something to do with the Josi concerns? I guess what? Also, then you would think maybe they are going to go after Ekblad,
right,
on top of this. But yeah, I think the plan is just like a lot of things with the Preds right now. A lot of the strategy is hope.
Yeah.
And the hope is that Roman Josi's playing every game and is great this year.
Yeah, and right now I think that also probably involves him playing on the right. Like, he's playing on the right side, and what is, to me, a phenomenal question as we sit here a day away from NHL free agency, which is why I'm still leaving the door open that maybe they do go add somebody else on defense. I have no idea who Yosi's playing with right now. No clue. Like, it's probably not going to be Brady Shea because they tried that last year and that didn't work. So is it going to be Justin Barron as a top pair guy? Are you moving Josi over to the right and sticking, I don't know, Tanner Molendijk up there? Like, just throwing the kid into the I have no idea who's playing with Josi right now. I don't think it's going to be Nick Hague. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be him.
Josi, third pairing defenseman.
Yeah. Roman,
he can downshift.
You're going to have a dramatic reduction in your ice time. Yeah, I don't know.
It'd be a hell of a third pairing.
Could be. Could be pretty good. Oh, the third pairing there. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. More of your reaction on the Predators and the offseason. Plus, we will get into the NHL draft on Friday night as well with Brady Martin, the pick at number 5. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Preds making some moves this offseason. You got NHL free agency starting tomorrow. I would assume we'll see more trades around the league today. And the Preds, if you missed it, made one late last night. Nick Hague on defense coming in from the Vegas Golden Knights, a 6'6", 245-pound left shot defenseman, and back to Vegas, Colton Sissons and Jeremy Lauzon. So 2 Preds out, 1 Pred now in, with Nick Hague coming in, signing a 4-year, $5.5 million per season extension along with it as well.
Every time you say it, it still doesn't seem as real.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem more real, but it's real.
I mean, look, the reaction around the league based on what I've seen so far from most people is, my God, that's a lot of money for Nick Hague. And that's what the reaction is. Now, look, sometimes teams make those deals and it seems like a lot of money and it works out. You know, Hague, if he gives you exactly what he's given Vegas, it's hard for me to imagine he's worth that money. I get the idea of it, 6'6", and they need to get bigger on defense. And last year, they need to find a way to not make it as easy to get to the middle of the ice as it was for opponents for them last year. But he's a third-pairing guy. Like, that's what he is. He's been a third-pairing guy his entire career.
I understand the cap going up. I don't understand what he has done to warrant more than doubling his AAV from 2.3, which is about what I think he should still be paid this next year. And I understand in a situation like this, it's going to go up. So, okay. 3.5?
Yeah.
4? I mean, and maybe it's nitpicks. I mean, it's like, okay, so great. So 4. So we're talking about $1.5 million. Doesn't sound like much. Cap is going up,
but that adds up over time.
There
right?
there is a whole puzzle here, and there's a big need for them to do more. Well, they are trying to win now.
There's an account
that's indisputable, right? At this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's an account on X that I like called J Fresh Hockey, and basically he takes analytics and kind of just puts them in a really quick synopsis here. And, you know, he lists out some of the numbers for Nick Hague here, but I'll just read you the description. It says, Nick Hague acquired, signed by the Preds, a very large third-pair defenseman who clears the crease, sometimes drops the gloves, and spends as little time with the puck as he possibly can. This is from Nick Hague. From J Fresh Hockey, the description of Nick Hague there. Which is fine. Like, again, the idea of that by itself is not a bad thing.
Right.
Like, the stay-at-home defenseman whose primary focus is, I'm going to make life very difficult. I'm going to be physical. I'll drop the gloves when I need to. I'm clearing out the crease. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Like, frankly, they need some of that. It's the price that comes along with it. Are we going to look back at this in a few weeks or even a year from now and say, well, I mean, that was just the price of doing business and the cap went up the way it is? Or are we going to look at it a year from now and say, oh, man, they're paying a whole lot of money to Nick Hague out there?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. But, I mean, it's so much of the answer to that is like how other things work out, right? Like, I feel like the first-round pick that Barry Trotz made, I think the reaction to it, a lot of it is just because of how everything else has gone, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a little bit of probably overreaction in the downgrading of Brady Martin by some fans. Like,
there is,
you know, like, I mean, he's a legit prospect.
There are people
because things have gone so poorly, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt anymore.
Well, there are people that think, we're going to get to Brady Martin here in just a few minutes, but just kind of like a quick thought on it. There are people that think Brady Martin is like some fourth line grinder that they've drafted here, and I don't think that's the case. Like, go watch him. He's pretty good. Now, is he going to be as good as James Higgins as Porter Martone? I have no idea. So we're going to get into that coming up here in just a few minutes in the 7 o'clock hour. There's a text here that I think is good in terms of this is how a lot of Predators fans feel. It says, I'm not really sure what the plan is for the Predators. Is it a rebuild or are they trying to win now? Because I look at the roster today and all I see is a team that's going to be picking in the top 5 again next year. They're trying to win now. But to that point, I look at their roster and I say, okay, how do you win now? right? Like right now, if they're going to be a team based on the roster currently constructed, and again, it's probably going to change again here in the next 48 hours. But as the roster is currently constructed, if they're going to win next year, it's going to take a heck of a rebound from UC Saros.
Yes.
It's going to take a heck of a rebound from guys like Marchessault and Stamkos. Forsberg wasn't bad last year,
but he needs to be
a tick better. And it's going to take a heck of an uptick from, not a rebound, but an uptick from LaRue and Svechkov and Evangelista. Like, they're going to have to be really good next year. So can all of that happen? Maybe some of it happens. The idea of all of it happening is pretty far-fetched to me.
Yes. I mean, I guess if all of that happened, you might have a pretty good freaking team. But most of it has to happen anyway, right? Like, most of those things have to happen. And like you said earlier, I mean, at this point, the talk around Svechkov, looking at the lineup, boy, talk about a jump required.
Yeah.
I mean, that just seems like you're putting way too much on him.
And I still, like, I hope what that is Barry Trotz having a plan in his back pocket of, there's a trade here or a move of some kind that I'm going to try to pull off, and that person is going to be playing with Steven Stamkos. And in the meantime, I'm saying that it's going to be Fedor Svechkov because I don't have any other option on my roster right now. But, I mean, your other option to play with Stamkos down the middle, because Barry Trotz also said last week he does not want Steven Stamkos to play center. And I don't really want Steven Stamkos to play center either if I'm them. So right now your options are Svechkov or Haula, and neither one of those are great options in my opinion.
No.
If you're going Forsberg, O'Reilly, Marchessault, somebody, either Marchessault or Stamkos, is playing with Svechkov,
and that somebody probably isn't too happy about that. All due respect to Svechkov.
Exactly.
It's just not ideal.
Well, exactly. Yeah, we keep going back to comments that either Marchessault or Stamkos made at the end of last year. But, Stamkos was asked about the idea of playing, does he want to play at center or on the wing? And he was, he started with the typical, I'll be whatever they need me to be part of this. But he was like, some of that has to do with who's playing center while you're on the wing, which I took as, well, yeah, if you go get me, Braden Point, I'll go play on the left wing. I don't really have a problem with that.
Yeah.
That's a far cry with where they're at right now with their center depth. So, again, it's June the 30th. It's the busiest part of the offseason. There's still, Preds may make 5 moves today. I have no idea. But where they're at right now with their roster, there's a lot of work left to be done if they're going to be a team that, again, as I call it, not just flirting with a playoff spot next year and happy to be there, but has a legitimate chance to be dangerous. There's still some work to do.
Is there anyone – we talked a lot about Sam Bennett previously. As expected, he's back.
Yep.
8-year deal with Florida. Is there anybody in the free agency pool that could seriously change the math for this team at center?
I don't think so. I mean, no.
They're going to have to pry. So they're going to have to pry someone from someone.
Yes,
that makes a difference, and that's just not easy to do.
I mean, your best free agent centerman is probably Granlund.
There you go, full circle.
Yeah, I mean, no lie. I'm looking at the list right now. That's it. That's your best free agent centerman that's still on the board.
How old is Granlund now?
Granlund, I believe,
probably
is
like 32
about to be
or something,
34.
Right? Okay, all right, he's up there now.
I mean, he would fit in with the rest of the roster.
That's true. He'd actually bring the average annual age down.
Yeah, he's 33. He'll be 34 in February. So
come on in.
But that's. I mean, he's legitimately the best center option on the table. Like Claude Giroux is going back to Ottawa, and even he's 37 at this point. So he's not, it's not what he used to be. Your other options at center are like Mason Appleton, right? Like, and most people listening have no clue who that is. So, I mean, there's some interesting wingers out there, like Nikolai Ehlers. We've had somebody text about him.
Yep. Sure.
What's going to end up happening with Marchand? Like, I don't think the Predators are going to be in the mix for that. Brock Besser is going to be out there. But again, Not that you can't sign wingers because they need a lot of help everywhere. But the distribution of the puck and where they're at center right now, it's of paramount importance. Like they're just not in a good spot with that right now. But there could be an option to add to center that we're going to talk about coming up next, maybe as soon as next year. We'll get into that coming up. 615-737-1025. We will get into the NHL draft. The Predators select Brady Martin at pick number 5 with Porter Martone and James Hagens still on the board. Your reaction to that, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So we've talked a lot about the trade that the Predators made last night and what could still be coming this offseason. There was the NHL draft on Friday as well, and the Predators made all 3 of their first-round selections. So number 1, was not totally convinced heading into the draft that they would do that they would make all 3 of those selections, but they do. And at number 5 overall, the Predators draft Brady Martin. Now, Brady Martin, it's not like it was totally out of nowhere. There were some mock drafts heading into the draft that had Brady Martin going to the Predators at number 5. And Brady Martin was thought to probably go somewhere in that 4 to 7 range. So from that standpoint, Joe, it's not like it was a totally out of nowhere pick that just was off the wall and took everybody by surprise. As a matter of fact, there have been a couple things that have been written since then that said if Martin didn't go 5 to the Predators, he was going 6 to Philadelphia. So it's right in line for where he could have gone. The question is, did they make the right decision on Brady Martin while Porter Martone and James Higgins were still on the board? So, Joe, it played out exactly kind of how we thought it would last week. We spent a whole lot of time talking about how the decision may come down to Martone versus Higgins and that both of them have a chance to be there at number 5. And they were. The first 3 picks went exactly the way we thought. And then you had Caleb Denoye going number 4 to Utah. So that meant the Predators had a choice between Brady Martin, James Higgins, Porter Martone. And they went with Brady Martin. I got to tell you, I was in the building at Bridgestone Arena doing the draft show. I thought when Higgins was available, that was going to be who they took. I think a lot of people in the building were expecting that. And when they took Brady Martin, the reaction was, oh, okay, Brady Martin is the pick. And then I tweeted about it, put it out there, and Barry Trotz was just getting smoked in my replies on Twitter. So, Joe, your thoughts on passing Porter Martone, James Higgins in favor of Brady Martin on Friday?
Yeah, look, we've seen some overstating of what this is by some angry fans. We've seen the text. Probably some of your mentions were the same way. I mean, acting like, again, like Cam was funny in the text, like, hey, they drafted Colton Sisson's replacement and Brady Martin. You're like, it's funny. I think Cam was joking. I think some people maybe aren't joking. This isn't like an outrageous reach, as you pointed out. Brady Martin was a late riser, and I think Brady Martin, I think his personality helped him a lot. I think that's clear through a lot of reporting, right?
Oh, yes.
People loved the kid, and that's great. And the intangibles and things like that are great. I've read every piece of analysis I could find on him, but the other picks, but him in particular, I've seen some people say this is someone who's going to have a C on his chest someday, and that's all great. So I can't sit here and say, it's a bad pick, but I think the term that Barry Trotz has used before, big swing, I think this was him not taking the big swing when it was there for him, and that's my problem with it. I think of all the analysis, we had a lot at the Athletic.
Yep.
We got
Corey Pryman and Scott Wheeler are really good.
Pryman and Wheeler are awesome, and they both had different. Pryman gave the Preds a C+ because of that pick. And again, I think there's I've seen a lot of consensus of really liking the next 2 picks the Preds made, right? As part of the grade.
Yep, Cam Reed and Riker Lee.
Cam Reed definitely on the blue line. I think a lot of people may have thought that that Fiddler's kid might be the pick there, but I think that's a good pick. Riker Lee, Spartan, by the way.
Yes.
I think one of them said they think he has the best hands in the draft. But this pick, Wheeler had Preds as overtime winners overall.
Yeah.
So what he does is winners are like winners, and you have overtime winners, overtime losers, and losers, if that makes sense. Like a game, the different outcomes of games. Overtime,
second tier. Yeah.
Second tier. But again, because of those picks in particular. And what he said about Martin, was good. It's like you like Martin. He could be a good player, all that. But I think his analysis on the next overtime winner is what I think is why I have a problem with this. I'm going to read this quote, I'm very confident James Higgins will be a riser in a redraft when we start doing those for this class years from now. I think people are going to come to realization as early as next year. He's one of the best players in college hockey, stars again at the World Juniors. The Bruins need a premium potential top-of-the-lineup forward and preferably a center of that pick, and I think it could and should sail over the wall for a home run, end quote. I listened to you guys. You guys did an awesome job of draft coverage, you and Max, and you had C. Mason, you had Hal in there some too. And there was a lot. You guys talked a lot before the pick about there's a lot of nitpicking at James Higgins right now. Yes, he didn't set the world on fire as a freshman at Boston College, but this is where context is so important. A freshman in college hockey at that level, playing against a lot of guys in their young to mid-20s. It's a little different than the OHL, right?
Yes.
So, and this is where people can get lost with the context a little bit. I just think that James Higgins is that big-time offensive driver, number one center, if it works out, that you could have had. And I understand he's not big, but I mean, Brady Martin, actually, the funny thing is they're about the same size. Now, I know Brady Martin's a straight line grinder of a player and all that stuff. I think that you had a chance to take a big swing and didn't take it.
Yeah, I would have gone Higgins. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, I said it before they made the pick that Higgins would be where I'd go. And when Higgins fell to them and was on the board at 5, that's where I thought that they were going to go at that point. Now, in retrospect, Barry Trotz was on with Stillman last week, and Stillman asked him about, what are some qualities that are most important to you when you're making this pick? And the first thing he said was competitiveness and drive. And that's Brady Martin. That's what it is. Again, I think there have been some comments and some reaction over the last couple of days here on Brady Martin that I think are kind of simplifying it a little too much. Brady Martin plays really physical. He hits hard. He can be kind of that grimy type of player. And because of that, I think some people think the Predators just drafted a fourth liner. I don't think he's that. I think he's a top 6 player. I think he's got a chance to be pretty good. And basically every comp that you see, I've seen a whole lot of Sam Bennett,
right,
and a whole lot of Matthew Tkachuk, even though he doesn't play wing. But that type of in your face, the way you play type of player. So I think Brady Martin has a chance to be pretty good. Does he have the super elite upside? That's going to be the question. And most people think the answer to that is no. So from that standpoint, if you're a Predators fan, you say you spend all this time talking about getting into the top 5 and trying to get that franchise-changing centerman, and you potentially have that guy available in James Higgins, and you don't make the pick when the opportunity's there.
Yeah, and this is I forget some of the. I read a lot of different things, but I saw multiple. Essentially, to paraphrase, upside. What's the highest? What's the ceiling? And it's a number 2 center who's a matchup issue. Which is great. They need that, and I think that sooner rather than later, if he turns out to be what people hope, the best of what people hope, I think he'll be up here soon. And soon, what does that mean? I'm not saying snap your fingers, but before too long, and he'll make a difference. But the Sam Bennett comparison. Okay, let's remember with Sam Bennett, a couple things. One is, insane postseason.
Yeah.
This is a guy who, the best 4 years of his career, last 4 years, he's averaged 45 points.
Right.
Let's also remember that when you're Sam Bennett and you have Barkov and Verhaeghe and Reinhart on your top line, and you get to play with Tkachuk, it's a little bit different. Sam Bennett, he takes advantage of it, but Sam Bennett in that context, holy crap, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Sam Bennett in a vacuum, he's fine. He's a good player, but that's not what you try to get in the top 5.
Well, and I would also say this, like, I feel, and again, I think in the backdrop of all of these conversations, how many of you out there have actually spent significant time watching James Higgins or Brady Martin play? The answer to that question, truthfully, is not a whole lot of people. There are not a whole lot of people listening to our show right now that have had the opportunity to see James Higgins or Brady Martin play. And I'm not getting on you about that. It's hard to watch them. Like, if you're here in the United States, it's hard to watch the Ontario Hockey League, or it's hard to watch college hockey in Boston. So it just kind of is what it is. Now, I've paid attention to him a little bit more over the last few months because we've known that this is coming. But I've watched a good amount of these guys, but most of that has been either highlights or going back and watching some stuff out there from a few of their games. Like, I don't feel like I'm just an absolute expert on James Higgins or Brady Martin either. So that's always in the backdrop of some of these conversations. I think Brady Martin has a pretty high floor. Like, I think he's going to be an NHL player relatively quickly, and we're going to get in later this hour just exactly how quick that could be, but relatively quickly, I think he's going to be on this team, and he's going to be playing, and could end up being like, I don't look at Brady Martin and the way that he plays the game and his profile and all that. I don't think you're looking at a bust. Like, I think he's going to be a guy that comes up and is a player here for a long time. I don't know that he's got the superstar potential. And James Higgins, I think, does have some superstar potential. I also think James Higgins has a chance to be a bust. So it really kind of just depends on how you view it that way. I know personally for me, and I think a lot for a lot of Predators fans, I'd like to see you take a swing at a guy that you've never really had before. And I think Higgins is more in line with that.
Yeah. And look, I'm admittedly influenced by, I said this earlier in the show, but there was like a Bruins fan account at some point. It put together this whole, highlight package of Higgins just from last year. And even though, again, he didn't overwhelm with his production, my goodness.
He's got a heck of a lot of skill.
His skill set is absurd. So, yeah, he could bust. But another thing with Higgins, the size, people saying he doesn't get to the hard area, stuff like this. But, like, the intangibles with him also aren't really questioned much either. Like, people really like the kid,
he's going to be
too.
a good player. Yeah.
So, look, this is going to end up being one of these. And you mentioned Porter Martone earlier, who, again, the comp on him has been Forsberg, which sounds pretty freaking good, too. But to me, it's Higgins is the guy that I'm going to watch in the world. I think mostly we're going to watch. Yeah, like if Martone becomes star, then that you could complain about that too. But it's Higgins, right?
Yeah.
And it's in the next few years and comparing those two. And in the meantime, the Preds need to figure out a way to win anyway, because people like this is one of those picks that you're just not getting the benefit of the doubt given the state of everything else.
So we'll take your reaction to Brady Martin being the pick at number 5 over James Higgins and Porter Martone. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. How quickly could Brady Martin be in the NHL? Could he be a factor this season in the NHL? We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Tzatziki's. Craving something fresh and flavorful? Tzatziki's has you covered. From juicy chicken kebabs to perfectly grilled salmon, every bite bursting with Mediterranean goodness. And that's the homemade sauces and dressing as well, which I've had, by the way. Very good. Get half off a $25 gift card while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Taking your reaction to Brady Martin being selected at number 5 by the Predators ahead of Porter Martone and James Hagens. By the way, Martone goes number 6 to Philadelphia. Hagens number 7 to Boston. So literally right behind Brady Martin are those two guys that we spent a whole lot of time last week talking about. So, Martin is a centerman. Now, there's the thought from some that maybe he plays wing in the NHL, but I think most people view him as a centerman in the NHL as well. He is 6 feet, 187 pounds, very physical. You look at his player profile from last year in the Ontario Hockey League. He's a good offensive player. I think he put up 72 points. So he had 72 points, 33 goals, 39 assists in 57 games for the Greyhounds. So it's a good offensive season. It's not a great offensive season in the OHL. It's not an elite offensive season in the OHL. For context, not that this is a direct comparison, but Luke Evangelista put up over 100 points in the OHL. So there's a limitation on what that actually means when you look at the kind of the next level and how that all translates. But there's a lot about his game clearly that the Predators like. So how quickly could he be up here? And could it be as soon as this year? Could he actually challenge for a spot in training camp right now as an 18-year-old? And Barry Trotz brought that up on Friday night at his press conference. Here's what Barry Trotz had to say on Brady Martin.
On Martin is part of maybe why you wanted him, the speed at which maybe he could be at the NHL level. Is that part of it, or you're not worried about that?
No, not really. But I can tell you, he's one of those players that you're gonna come at training camp and you're gonna go, this kid's not coming here just for training camp and development camp. He's coming here to take someone's spot, and he's very capable of it. I just believe that. Probably, we'll let it play out, but knowing his mentality, just watching in the short time that we got to see him and everything that the scouting staff has said about him, and he'll push people out of a job if they're not careful. That's just, I think his mentality is that he comes and brings it every night and practice and in games, and you got to be aware.
So that was Barry Trotz on Brady Martin saying he's coming to training camp to take someone's job. Now, kind of reading between the lines there, I don't expect that to happen. I don't think he's going to be an NHL player for the Predators this year. But what did you make of what Barry Trotz had to say about that part of it and the idea of Brady Martin coming into camp this year and being a part of the Predators?
Unnamed texter made a joke. What if he comes in and takes Barry Trotz's job? Oh, wait, sorry, that was my joke. Player GM Brady Martin, huh? What do you think, Preds fans?
Hey, Brady, what do you think of this move?
Yeah. I feel like, is it crazy to think call up this year? Is that unrealistic?
Well, what I wonder is,
could
he start? Could he start with the Predators? And you remember, you've got 10 games. They could play 9 before it counts against a year as their entry-level deal. And he's not a college player, so he could go back to junior, and you could have him up here for 9 and see how it goes, and then just send him back if you don't like it after that. I think there's a chance that might happen. I don't think it's a big chance, but I think there's a chance that might happen. The other part of this is, let's be honest here, where they're currently at with their center depth, his opportunity to do that here is just a little bit better than it would be elsewhere right now, based on where their roster is right now. So I think you have to factor that part of it in as well. If he doesn't, it's really not a big deal. I didn't expect whoever they took at number 5, with the possible exception of Martone, because I think Martone is pretty close to being NHL ready. But if they took Hagens, I don't think Hagens is going to be an NHL player next year. I think he's probably going back to college.
Yeah, he's going to play sophomore year,
exactly.
College.
So I don't have the expectation that whoever they were going to take at number 5 is going to help out this year's team. But I mean, I did find those comments interesting that Barry Trotz is just not shutting the door on that as we start.
But like you say, again, it's a lot of it is just, and maybe he doesn't think this way. We certainly wouldn't say it, but a lot of it is just the sad state of the Preds down the middle.
Yeah. No, it's a big part of it. I mean, I'm not going to be stunned if Brady Martin comes into training camp and plays in a couple preseason games at the NHL level, and you look at it and you say, huh, okay. Like the way that he plays, I think translates to the NHL pretty quickly. He's very physical. You know, he's not afraid to get in your face. He's good on defense. Like there's a lot about his game to like. And it's again where I go back to some of the comments about him acting like they've drafted, you know, I don't know, Austin Watson or something here. It's like, it's not that. Like he's going to be a good player. But I also think he's 6 feet tall. He's 187. He could probably stand to get a little bigger before he's at the NHL level. I think in a perfect world, you'd probably like to see him develop here. But the roster that the Predators have down the middle just makes it interesting. I'm going to be interested to see what that looks like. You know, they got development camp this week, and they're going to be out there on the ice starting today. So I'm interested to get an in-person look at Brady Martin today, see what he looks like out there.
I just would like to point out that Austin Watson was taken in the first round,
He
number 18
was.
overall. So when he was drafted, Austin Watson was, you know, supposed to be something.
But again, like Austin Watson was a good player here for a
He
while.
was.
He was just kind of fourth line guy. I don't think Brady Martin is that.
They had a heck of a third line run.
They did.
With Watson, Benino, and Sissons.
They did. I don't think Brady Martin
Brady
is that.
Martin is better than that. But Brady Martin, yeah, look, I expect him to be a good player for the Nashville Predators for a long time.
Yeah.
And if he is that, then you can't look at this pick and say, what a terrible pick. But again,
how good is James Higgins
if
for Boston?
James Higgins is an actual number one center, then you still can.
Yeah. Oh, that's people are going to be watching that. Like it's different than 2013 because a lot of people in 2013, like if you were here for that time, all the mock drafts for the most part had Barkov going to the Predators at 4. And it was some combination of Seth Jones and Nathan McKinnon at 1-2, Jonathan Drouin at 3, which is where he ended up going to Tampa, and Barkov at 4 to the Predators. Well, it didn't go that way. It went McKinnon 1, Barkov 2, Drouin 3, and Seth Jones 4. So a lot of people
get
have
confirmation that they would have taken Barkov.
I don't remember, but I'm sure they would have. Like I'm sure if he was there, because remember they had Shea Weber, they had Roman, they would have taken Barkov. But like people have always looked at Barkov around here. Like if you were around for that draft and you were a Predators fan at that time, people have always looked at Barkov and said, "Man, what could have been if you had him?" But that one was at least you didn't have the chance.
You didn't
to
have
draft
choice.
him.
Yeah, it's not
This
a
one you
mistake.
had the choice. So this is going to be one of those ones that we've not seen very often, specifically with the Predators, of watching players that were taken directly behind your guy and comparing all three of those guys. And to your point, more specifically, the two centermen in Higgins and Martin. That's going to be something we watch for the next 15 years.
Yep. Ryan in Nashville says, like I said, the draft, Preds drafted a young Colton Sissons when they could have had a Jack.
Well, that's
Hughes.
just not true.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
Colton
talking about. Like,
Sissons
he's
thing
not
is-
Colton Sissons. He's
that's
better than Colton Sissons.
overstating things.
And look, is James Higgins going to turn out to be Jack Hughes? Maybe. If he does, I mean, that's what a lot of people have compared him to. We'll see. But if he does, that's a heck of a player. Jack Hughes is a heck of a player. But again, like I don't think Brady Martin is Colton Sissons. I think Brady Martin is I think Sam Bennett's a pretty good comparison. Like he's a good player, a top 6 caliber forward. I just don't know that he's going to be, Sidney Crosby or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the Higgins thing, this will be as intense. I'm trying to think of because like you said, that one is that's not a mistake. That's just, it didn't fall your way.
Yep.
Like what other, I mean, I guess when I was going to say the Mariota draft, but I mean, again, it's the same thing. Like they took Winston, so you were going to take Mariota, right? I mean, there's some of those situations like that. I mean, I guess this year, you get some of those quarterbacks for the Titans, but this is going to be a very intense watching the other the other guy for years and possibly wondering what could have been, or maybe saying, wow,
thank God they
Barry
took
was
Brady
right
Martin. Yeah.
after all.
615-737-1025 our phone number. There was another, I guess, almost move that happened for the Predators on Friday night that, reading between the lines, I think I know what it was, and we'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up at 7:45. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8 o'clock. Taking your reaction to the Predators drafting Brady Martin at number 5 ahead of James Hagans and Porter Martone. Martone going 6 to Philadelphia. Hagans going 7 to Boston right after the Predators pick at number 5. Apparently, though, the Predators were close to pulling off another trade on Friday night that would have had them, I would presume, move back up in the draft And I heard Barry Trotz talking about this after the draft Friday night in the first round in his press conference, and it got me thinking about who this could be. I think I know, but let's hear what Barry Trotz had to say on Friday night about a trade that was just missed on.
We were working really hard today. I mean, once we picked, we were on the phones almost the whole time till we finished that on the 23rd pick. I mean, we were trying to move up. We were trying to get certain guys. We missed big time on a couple because they were good players. Other teams recognize that as well. But yeah, there was a lot of effort trying to get the guys that we wanted. We moved up and got Cameron, which was really, I think, would be a really good thing for us. And that's what happens when you have extra draft capital, and we're able to do that so we get the people that you really want.
So that was Barry Trotz talking about how they were on the phone basically the entire first round, trying to move up, trying to go get guys. And Joe, just kind of reading between the lines there, I think I have a theory about what they tried to do. You know, Pittsburgh was picking at 11 and 12, and they ended up trading one of their picks to Philadelphia. I think it was the 12th pick to Philadelphia, and moved back to pick 22 and pick 31 in the draft, and allowed Philadelphia to come up. I think, based on what he was talking about there, they were saying they basically had a deal done, and then it got nixed at the last second because the player got drafted. Reading between the lines there, just my theory, I have no way to prove it. But I think they were going to make a trade with Pittsburgh at 11, trade up, draft Roger McQueen, and he was going to be added to the mix there. And then Anaheim took McQueen at number 10, and that all got put to the side. But reading between the lines, I think they tried to go after Roger McQueen as well on Friday night.
Which would have been pretty exciting.
It would have been.
If they would have pulled that off. I mean, that's a guy
Frankly,
who
I think Predators fans would be more excited about Roger McQueen than they are Brady Martin.
I agree. Roger McQueen that's a big swing. It's a gamble, right?
Oh, yeah.
As we've talked about a lot with him and the back and everything, but very intriguing player.
Oh, yeah. Like he's got a chance to be really good. Like he's got a chance if he's healthy and you believe everybody that talks about him in terms of the size that, Chris Mason was talking the other night. He knows some people that know McQueen, and he's listed at 6'5", and C. Mason's like, no, he's about 6'6" now. Like he's still growing and, all those things. So the size part of it, the athleticism, he's a sprinter. Like there's a lot to like about McQueen. It is kind of hilarious that he got taken by Anaheim and they immediately put him on a helicopter and flew him to Disneyland, and he started taking pictures next to like the Lightning McQueen car out there. And apparently he's wearing 95, which is Lightning McQueen's number in the movie. So really leaning into the Cars theme out there.
Get in that branding right away.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's not a bad idea. But like it had the Predators, like I'm with you. I really like their last two picks in the draft. And we're not going to talk probably hardly at all about Riker Lee and Cam Reed, just because it just doesn't have the same sizzle to it as the number 5 overall pick. But I like Cam Reed. I think the Riker Lee kid has a chance to be pretty good. I think it was Pronman that talked about him having the best hands in the draft.
Yeah.
Like that's good. Like I like
that.
That's kind of one of those swings that we're talking about. So I like that. But I think today Predators fans would be really excited had they drafted Brady Martin at 5. You'd still find your Predators fans that were upset about having Hagens and passing on him at 5. But had they rebounded and then traded up for McQueen and you had Martin and McQueen, I think you'd see a lot of Predators fans feeling better today.
You have little Eminem talk coming out of the draft. Instead, you got Holla and Haig, the preparation age. I kill myself. I'm sorry. Preparation H.
He's had that week off the air, and he's come back just full bore this morning. He's up there. Preparation H for old Rexrode. He can't even speak right now. He's just lost.
I mean, I said that earlier. I didn't make myself laugh like that. Why am I laughing at my own joke this much another hour later? I don't know. But yeah, it could have been some good Eminem action.
Oh, man. Good stuff there. Yeah, I mean, McQueen, that could have been interesting to see there. But, I have no way to prove that. They could have been talking about any number of other players. But just kind of reading between the lines there, I think that's exactly what it was. I think it was McQueen, and then Anaheim took him at 10, and the deal with Pittsburgh fell through after that.
No, I think that absolutely makes total sense. In fact, I can't even imagine. Like, if anybody else has another theory of what happened in that stretch, I like to hear. But I mean, that totally adds up with them. Oh, they took him at 10. All right, see ya. Sorry. Time to hang up. Texture says, I see Martin as a swing for the fences pick for Trotz. Hagens was a safe pick. If he doesn't pan out, no one blames Trotz. If Martin isn't better than Hagens, it's all on him and his staff. I guess we define big swing differently. Big swing to me is what's the higher ceiling, right? I mean, that's what that's the big swing. The big swing was Hagens.
Well, I actually I think Martin. Again, I think Martin's floor is pretty high. I think he's going to be a good NHL player. So, to me, the safer pick is Martin,
right?
And Hagens has the opportunity to be a really good player. I don't want to oversell it with Hagens either. I think you also saw this week that as the draft kind of wore on, there were some people the Rangers are a perfect example. The Rangers had an opportunity to either stick and pick this year, I think at 12 in the draft, or they had the opportunity with a trade they made with Pittsburgh to either give them this year's first rounder or next year's first rounder. And the more people dug into this, everybody thinks next year's draft is way better than this one. So I don't want to overstate these guys either. James Hagens is not Connor McDavid. Okay. There's not a Connor Bedard in this draft. So I think we always got to keep that in the backdrop of it too, is I said Friday on the draft show that Hagens is getting picked apart, and he is. I thought some of the concerns on Hagens heading in the draft, it's okay, so where are you getting that from? Because he was only a point per game player as a freshman in college, and he didn't put up 60 points like Macklin Celebrini. Okay, that's fine. But again, I don't think Hagens is Macklin Celebrini. So you got to keep that in the backdrop all this too.
I mean, Hagens did drop. I mean, I feel like a year ago, in fact, I meant to do this. I never did. Go back and look. I love looking at the mock drafts from a year earlier. Now we have 26 mock drafts out now, but there was talk about Hagens being right at the top there with those guys for a long time, and he ends up going 7. So, but I do think, and you talked about this a lot on the draft broadcast with Max, I do think some of that is nitpicking, and that he got exposed in where he was playing last year, like some of these other guys didn't, because they weren't playing at the level he was playing at.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on the Preds draft and the trade that the Predators made last night with Nick Hague coming in, Colton Sissons, Jeremy Lauzon on the way out to the Vegas Golden Knights. All that coming up later with Corey. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
I just wanted to let you know I'm here. All right, buddy.
I gain trust every time my hair grows a little more and a little more. I trust in myself and my mullet. So it's a process, you know. You can't grow a great mullet in a day. You can't win a Big Ten title in a day.
Preparation H.
Yeah, Dr. Cosmo Kramer, proctology.
Holla and Haig, the Preparation H.
Ass man. No, these don't belong to me. I'm not the ass man. I think there's been a mistake.
It is that time of the day.
That's quick work right there.
For the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode, who's back in the saddle today. We went
Man.
a week without a rant from Rexrode.
I mean, imagine if you were actually in a saddle for a week. How much preparation H you might need.
You'd need a significant amount.
Preds fans, is Barry Trotz's GMing chapping your butt? Well, I got just the cure.
Joseph, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ian. I'm sorry to everybody for laughing so much at my own jokes. So I want to let's move on from the butt to the foot. Okay. Let's talk a little.
All things lower body.
Yeah, because I don't think we've talked enough about gout. And by the way, I'd like to shout. I'm really not going to rant about gout, but it is part of this story. I'd like to shout out Dennis Burnside for another just brilliant illustration. What is it? Gout attack?
Yes.
I mean, where did he get that picture?
I don't know.
Did he is that AI generated?
It might be, yeah.
Me looking like I was actually getting bitten by a shark or something and looking at some huge foot it was amazing. Amazing work by Dennis. And I know that, I mean, we're it's almost 2 hours into the show and people have been asking all the time, well, we want a gout update. Okay. Well, first of all, I've learned a lot about gout since this last attack. It is nothing to trifle with. I am taking measures more seriously with the advice of my personal physician to try to eradicate it. It's still in my foot a little bit, still hurts a little bit. I'm wearing flip-flops today, unfortunately for Robby, but it's getting better. But last week I overdid it. I thought I was good. I put on shoes and I went to the gym and I worked out and then I tried to play a little hoops. And then the next day, as we went on a little tour to go watch Dave Matthews, it was killing, absolutely killing. But if you go to a concert, you're not going to wear flip-flops.
No.
We went to back-to-back Dave Matthews concerts.
Too much moving, too much dancing.
I mean, but even both places, we had places to stay in Birmingham and Alpharetta. Birmingham, nice new amphitheater, by the way, that were walkable, but still walkable, a mile away, walkable, right? So, yeah. So it was a very painful week with the gout. But here's the thing that really bothered me, in particular the second night, but also it was both nights. And again, this may be a get off your lawn thing. But what I want to talk to you about today is if you're at a concert, I think it's great if you talk to the people around you and you have conversations and things like that. It's good to be social. But there is a limit to that, right? I really don't want someone constantly in my face giving me their analysis of the concert when I'm trying to sit there with my wife and enjoy the concert. And in particular, there was a song that I was really excited about, second night in Alpharetta, and we had talked to this nice couple next to us. They were quite a bit older than us. I mean, the Dave Matthews shows are not loaded with young folks. But in the middle of the song, the guy's like, "Hey, I bet you're glad you made the drive, huh?" And I'm just like, dude, get out of my face. Leave me alone. We're, in our own little world listening to this concert. So my very quick rant is, there should be some limits on how much you're talking to other people at a concert. Okay.
I agree.
Again, in between songs here and there. Oh yeah, we're all excited about this song. That's great. When I'm in the middle of the song, I don't want someone giving me commentary other than Katie Rexrode.
Especially if they're a stranger. It'd be one thing if they were with your party.
Oh,
and
sure.
You guys went to the concerts a lot together and you were discussing things.
And frankly, if they're with your party, you could just turn around and be like, "Hey, can you shut up for a second?"
That's right.
Yeah.
But strangers, yeah.
Yeah, again, it was just immediately when this happened, I'm like, well, this is a rant. Yeah, but it's not even that big of a deal. I bet you're glad you made the drive to Alpharetta, huh? I'm like, yes, but yeah. I was just like,
Yeah.
I turned like, yep. And then I just turned back to Katie I think it was like number 41. I don't remember what song it was. Two great shows, by the way. Go see Dave Matthews if you haven't. Whether you like his music or not, you will watch a concert and you will become a fan. But just kind of leave people alone. I don't do that. I've never done that show, but hey man, what do you think? You like this one?
It's pretty weird.
Yeah, I agree. And again, we had been talking to them. So like before and there was a rain delay too, by the way. So then we're all looking at the weather, like, okay, it looks like it's going to pass, all this stuff. So like there's more. You get to know somebody a little bit. We talked a little bit about our families. Yeah, we got kids going to college. Your kids are out of college. Oh, so that's fine. And then when the show starts, like, okay, now you guys hang out with yourselves and we'll hang out with ourselves. Is that too much to ask?
I don't think so. Brian says gout can be activated by horrible music. Taking a nice shot at you and Dave Matthews on the program this morning.
Man, again, don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that. Again, I've always. The Dave Matthews is not horrible music, but I get that it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. Go to a show and tell me after that show that you don't have a completely different concept of Dave Matthews Band. And then if you don't, then that's fine. But if you go to a show, I'm like our guy Lance here, went to his first one a couple years ago. Bridget was like, oh, crap, I didn't realize it's like this. Holy crap, they're amazing. So I'm just saying. I've already been mad enough about other things today, so I don't want to turn this into me.
Long fuse.
Yeah, me. But I probably ran at some point this summer about Dave Matthews again.
I mean, does the lack of self-awareness from people in these type of settings is also kind of mystifying too. It's like, hey man, we paid some money to come to this concert. I don't need you just talking to me the whole time. I had a similar experience one time at a Brad Paisley concert.
Okay.
This dude I met just wanted to talk the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, man, please stop talking. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And it was about nothing. Just like he was talking to me. People just, which, it's fine. People walk up to you and they just start telling you everything about their life. This was happening in like the middle of the concert. It's like, hey, man, what are we doing here? There's a concert going on over here, in case you can't see.
And, look, people have some pops. The smoke was wafting through the air.
Yeah.
This is so people.
It's an environment.
People at concerts often.
I smoke weed constantly.
Have buzzes, which is totally fine. I'm that's great. But, just kind of, you don't need to infringe on someone's little bubble there,
Dustin from Hopkinsville says, so you like Dave Matthews, but not Creed. Interesting.
Dave is way better than Creed. Sorry, people.
Yeah,
Brian says,
what?
Brian responded back to your text, said, I went to a Dave Matthews concert in 08. It was the first concert I've ever walked out of. Simply awful.
Okay. So we see that Brian's ears don't work. Cool. Brian, I hope you get, I don't know if gout can affect ears. I mean, it is arthritis that can go to a variety of joints. For me, it's the outside of my left foot, right by my little pinky toe. That's where my gout goes.
Maybe
I don't know
someday you could be like me and get gout.
I don't know if gout goes to ears, but I'm sad for you, Brian. Get help.
Does Preparation H help with any gout-related incidents?
I don't know. I wish that I could lie and say that I don't have Preparation H at home. Getting old sucks, man. We're just rotting corpses.
I mean, has there been more of a discussion about Preparation H at any point anywhere in the last 5 years than there is right now on this show?
Well, as any show in the history, even I thought about this. Is there like a serious show that's like a medical show? Probably
somewhere. Yeah.
I bet you even if there is, they've never talked about gout more than we've talked about gout. We have brought gout awareness into the world.
Millions.
I mean, like no one else.
Not.
So I hope that we, win an award for that someday from like the Gout Society of America.
Yeah. Oh, we got
GSA.
It was Gout Awareness Day. We were even on top of that.
We were.
So.
That's right.
We got updates the other day from people that are still keeping tabs on gout. And he apparently ran a very impressive 200-meter the other day. So, I mean, when he becomes a gold medal winning Olympian, we'll have been on the forefront of that. Good to see.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of the gout talk will really be big. Texter says, I've been a huge DMB fan since he pooped on Chicago. If for anybody who doesn't know, their tour bus let loose with waste a few years ago. But it doesn't make me like him any less. I'm sorry.
Did they use preparation H after all that?
I-
615-737-1025, our phone number. Corey Curtis from News 2 will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Preds draft and the trade made by Nashville last night. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning. And as we do every Monday morning, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2, who last week was very upset that I have basically no description of when he's coming on the show on Twitter. So last night, I said, you're about to have some incredible insight from Corey Curtis today at 8 o'clock, and that's what I expect. Corey, good morning. How are you?
Duval, I'm ready to go.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure the people at Duval are anxiously awaiting to see what sort of shot you'll take at the end of the day.
Let's get it right out of the way. If the Jacksonville Jaguars disappeared, would anybody in the NFL notice?
Here we go. I mean, you would. I'd miss that milky pool down there in the stadium.
Exactly. Pretty healthy source of jokes, I would say, right? That'd be you'd lose a popular source of your jokes.
We could make a movie called We'll Always Have Cleveland.
You think you need Preparation H if you walk out of the milky pool down there in Jacksonville?
Maybe they could have Preparation H Day.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
You need some kind of medicinal solution, I'm sure.
Well, the fans there have to spend so much time sitting down, their butt could get a little sore.
That is true.
A lot of butt talk today.
So, Corey, a very eventful weekend for the Nashville Predators. Let's start on the draft front. So, at number 5 overall, they take Brady Martin ahead of Porter Martone and James Higgins. And I like Brady Martin. I think a lot of the reaction from Predators fans on Brady Martin has been kind of overstated in terms of, like, there are people, I guess, that think that, they've drafted some fourth-line grinder here, and I don't think he's that. I think he's going to end up being a good player. He does not, I think everybody would agree, according to all the experts, have the same offensive upside as James Higgins does, and he goes at number 7 to Boston. So what do you make of that decision by Barry Trotz and the Predators and the explanation given of the competitiveness and the drive and all these things that we know Barry Trotz values kind of going into that decision for him?
Well, I think he was looking beyond the numbers, clearly, because when you look at the pick, this is their third time ever picking in the top 5. So you're thinking they can take a swing at elite talent because they haven't gotten many swings at elite talent in the history, of this team. But clearly he didn't think that talent was elite enough to pass a guy who is probably more of a culture setter. I texted you last night and I just said, he sounds more and more to me like a Matthew Tkachuk, a guy who, Matthew, the Tkachuk brothers are USA Hockey. Let's just put it out there. I mean, those guys are USA Hockey. They lead the boat, and they are big, tough, physical guys who can also put the puck in the net. There's 70, 80 point guys. They're not 50 goal guys, but they're the kind of guys you win with in the playoffs. Has been evidenced the last 2 years with the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup. And I think that pick was all about having a guy that Barry thinks can help push them through in the postseason. Now, the other thing, and I'll ask you guys this because I was thinking about this last night, does having 3 first-round picks change the way he makes that first pick? Because he goes back and gets Riker Lee, a highly skilled guy who can put the puck in the net later. Does he know I'm going to get a skilled scorer later in this draft? In this first round, I can take this guy who I covet for who he is. I think that depth in the first round for him helped him make that pick.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. I suppose, but you don't know how things are going to shake out either, right? After you,
not for anybody.
Yeah,
not for the first pick. You don't know,
right? But I'm just saying, I just think he just look. I get why there's high appeal for Brady Martin. And I think that Barry Trotz wants this to become a tougher, nastier team, and this is a straight line player and all that stuff. And I get that. But again, my issue is just like you said, like they just haven't had many opportunities to get someone who can be one of those big time point producing number 1 centers.
Yeah.
And I just think that was the big swing. Barry Trotz has used the term big swing. And I think that he declined to take one here, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, look, if you don't like the pick, you are entitled to not like the pick. And I'm not saying whether I like it or not. I'm saying I understand it, and I understand the track that he's going down on. Now, I tend to like those guys. I think those guys show up, whether they're scoring or not, they can make a difference. But I mean, I've been here since 2003. I've covered a lot of hockey teams that I've said, man, they need somebody who can put the puck in the back of the net. And so, and always dreamed of the day that I'd be able to watch a Predators team that had, a Sidney Crosby or an Alexander Ovechkin or a Patrick Kane or one of those guys. And I think a lot of people viewed, some of these guys as, players who could be, like not first pick of the draft potential, but very, very high end potential. The other thing though is everybody wanted him to take a center. He did take a center.
Yeah, that's true. And look, again, I think a lot of Predators fans are kind of overstating the Brady Martin. Brady Martin's a good player. Like there's a lot of reporting that Brady Martin would go right after number 5 at number 6 to Philadelphia if the Predators did not choose him there.
And realistically, guys, for all the people bemoaning, how many of them have watched 2 games that any of these guys have played to this point in their careers?
Very few.
I mean, have you? I have not.
I have, but very few.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I may have seen play a little bit with USA Junior, some of the guys with the USA Junior team, but I'm gonna tell you, I have watched a lot of Canadian junior hockey.
Right.
All right. I just have not gotten my teeth into that yet.
Well, Corey,
I'm still locked into 12-year-old girl soccer. So go.
Yes, absolutely. Well, look, and I think that some of the reaction to this, like Robby said, you got some exaggerating of how much of a reach it is. I mean, it's not this gigantic reach, but also I think, and you tell me if you agree, that just the way things have gone recently for the Preds automatically means if you do anything that's against the grain, and again, I mean, Barry Trotz has now brought in Halla and Haig, and he just gave Haig 5.5 over 4. But so these are all moves that are fair to be questioned, but also I think that the fan base right now is ready to pounce on Barry Trotz.
Well, he's got to win. I mean, look, if they had a good record last year, the fan base wouldn't be pouncing on Barry Trotz. But they had what I think we can all agree was the most disappointing season in team history. So there's a lot of reasons for fans to, be a little on edge about what's going on, because last year was such a huge disappointment. But I think clearly it's a pivot from what they were doing. They like you said, they need to be tougher. They need more grit, and they're getting it. And, I would agree. I mean, look, they had a lot of fights last year, but fights doesn't mean you're gritty. All right. And gritty is a style of play. That's doing the hard stuff. That's being hard to play against. I think Barry calls it sandpaper. There's a lot more coarseness to the grain of their sandpaper now. And, the other thing we haven't talked about is Forsberg and Yossi are getting older. This team needs a new core to start to develop, because right now there's no new core to start to develop. And when you look at Tanner Molendyke and, Wood and some of these other guys they've got, coming up, and then 3 picks in the first round, 4 in the top 35. If you can hit on 2 of those, you can see a new core developing, for your hockey team. And like I said, with Brady Martin, you've got a guy who I believe they think, and I could be wrong here, but they think is a culture setter. I mean, a kind of guy who is a future captain of your hockey team.
So what do you make of Colton Sissons, Jeremy Lauzon on the way out, being traded to Vegas reportedly? Nick Hague coming in. Like, Hague is a huge guy. I think he's 6'6", around 240. He's a third pair type of defenseman who is good at clearing the crease out and all those things. So, like, they need some of that. They need bigger defensemen, and Barry Trotz has talked about that. But now you've got free agency starting tomorrow, Corey. We'll see if there are any more moves that get made. But, so far in the offseason, the major moves for next year's NHL roster are Halla coming in, Haig coming in, and Lazan and Sissons out.
Yeah, and we all agree that Molendijk will probably be on the team this year?
I would have guessed so, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, you can put him on that defensive line as well. It's just a matter of where he fits in. Yeah, so it's an obvious pivot, to getting tougher. And look, we all like Colton Sissons. He had the hat trick in the big playoff game to advance the Preds, and he's always been a pretty good playoff player because he's kind of a gritty guy, which makes him kind of an unlikely trade candidate to me for the way you want your team to be. But you got to give up something to get something. And they give up Jeremy Lazan, by the way, another guy who hit a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
He was a physical player. So, they have to view Haig as an upgrade on him. And you can find third line guys, as far as systems goes. Barry has said that repeatedly. And maybe this year Brady Martin is one of those third line guys for this team. I mean, that's
possible.
That's possible. So you could have his replacement right now. So they make those moves to get grittier. I think they certainly have cap room still, to do something. What were they, 14 million under or something like that?
Around 17, yeah. So
okay.
they got
room. They got some room. I mean, and where would you think that they would look to add at this point?
Well, I hope they're looking at center, because if they're under the impression that they want to get back in the playoff mix next year, we'll see if Brady Martin can actually make the team and play significant minutes this fall or not. I still think that's a high ask for an 18-year-old. But right now their center depth is Ryan O'Reilly, Fedor Svechkov, Eric Halla, and Michael McCarron, and there's some work that's going to have to be done there.
Yeah, I think they've got plans for Svechkov. I think they think he can be one of those guys. But and look, we love Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, he is the factor, but he's not getting younger. So yeah, I would agree with you that they could add a piece there for sure. But we'll see where they think that their team is headed, because they can't have another year like last year. This team needs to sell tickets still, and I don't care about how great the in-game production is. If you're terrible back-to-back years, it'll affect you at the turnstiles.
Corey, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us as always, and could be a very fascinating next couple of days here with more trades, I'm sure, coming around the league today, and then free agency tomorrow.
I think regardless of what you think, it's kind of fun and exciting to watch what, the construction and see if it works. Because if it works, he's off the hook. But if it doesn't work, that's 2 swings in a row. You're like, well, this is a problem. And before I go, I just want to say, for anybody who missed Matt Freese's performance in goal last night for the U.S. men's national team, it was spectacular to watch. Now, that team can be infuriating to watch without question, but the goalie's performance last night in the PKs was absolutely sensational.
It wasn't as good as Tarek Skubel's performance on Sunday Night Baseball.
Oh boy.
But also good.
I missed that.
Number one team of baseball.
All right.
Thank you.
Does he play for the Cubs?
No, but hopefully he'll shut them out in October.
Yeah, we got to get there. We're struggling.
We need it.
We've hit the summer struggle bus. We'll see if we can get off of it.
Big Tigers Cubs World Series coming up later this fall.
Should have happened 40 years ago,
sure
Joe.
You two did.
I know, man.
I can have nice things now. It could be the Javi Baez revenge tour.
Yes.
Corey, thank you, sir.
Later.
Corey Curtis from News to Our Guest joins us every Monday morning at 8:00. We'll react to what Corey had to say and get back into the trade the Predators made last night, bringing in Nick Haig, shipping out Jeremy Lauzon and Colton Sissons. What else could be coming from Barry Trotz? Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I got a 4-pack of tickets to give away to see the Nashville Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds at First Horizon Park. Coming up on Thursday, first pitch at 6 o'clock. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025. 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a 4-pack of tickets to the Sounds taking on Memphis coming up on Thursday. The Preds make a move late last night, and they trade Colton Sissons and Jeremy Lauzon to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for defenseman Nick Hague. That was first reported by Darren Drager and Pierre LeBrun putting it out there this morning. It's been a little bit of a delay on the trade call because with how late at night it was last night, they were trying to get a hold of the players, and it looks like they've now done that. So the trade call expected to come here shortly in the NHL, kind of the queue there. So we'll see what that looks like there. But Nick Hague coming in and signed to a 4-year extension at $5.5 million per year. So Nick Hague, I said it earlier, Joe, has been basically a third-pair defenseman in Vegas. He's 6'6". He's around, depending on where you see the listings at. Some people have him at 245. Some people got him at 230. Some people have him at 240. So kind of right in that range. But obviously a huge guy on the back end on defense, and they have swapped out Jeremy Lauzon on the back end there, and then we'll see if there's a move coming to offset what they've now lost in Colton Sissons. I do want to correct something I said earlier. So Corey Curtis was talking about $14 million in cap space, and I said it was around 17 coming into the offseason. It was 17 coming in the offseason roughly, and then they made the haul of trade, and now with that plus the Hague contract, Puckpedia has them at roughly 13.5 of their cap space. So roughly $13.5 million in cap space for the Predators as we are, Joe, 1 day away from NHL free agency opening tomorrow. So a lot going on for the Predators this weekend.
Yeah, this Hague deal doesn't sound any better as the show has gone on. Time is not the time of 2 hours and 20 minutes has not eased the concern here. Shayna Goldman, one of my coworkers who does awesome work at The Athletic, had a tweet, said, quote, that is ... a big bet on Hague. Maybe he can do more in an expanded role outside of Vegas and be a late bloomer like one of his comps, Wallman, but maybe there's also a reason he was third pair there. Having Suster, Harper, Patterin with high similarity scores is concerning. Ben Harper, baby.
Yeah. I mentioned a tweet that Vengen sent me earlier in the show from AFP Analytics, and they track a lot of this stuff. It says Nick Hague traded to Nashville. Good on him and his agent. We can oftentimes come up with comps to justify a deal even if we don't agree with them. We couldn't here. Acquisition cost plus contract is really questionable for the team. That was the thought on the Predators move there. Jay Fresh Hockey says, talking about Hague, very large third pair defenseman who clears the crease, sometimes drops the gloves, and spends as little time with the puck as he possibly can.
Like you said, there's a place for that here.
Yeah, that's not always a bad thing.
There's some identity related movement happening here. Preds need to get tougher and stronger. So that's, again, the cost, I separate those two things. Look, I mean, it's tough to see Colton Sissons go if you're a Preds fan, I think, right? And this is a guy who harkens back to the glory days, and he's been a heck of a pro for a long time here. He's not an indispensable piece. He's getting older. You got younger. I think Lauzon peaked probably here 2 years ago.
I would agree.
So I don't think the cost is, like, in terms of the return, is a problem. The 4-year, 5.5 AAV,
it's an overpay.
I isolate that. I just can't. I don't get it. Even with the cap going up, I just think it's a huge overpay.
It's an overpay, and who knows? Maybe they do. Maybe they see something in him that they think an elevated role could really bring out.
Right?
I mean, you would think. I don't know why you're giving him that deal if you don't, but maybe they see something in him where they think here with the way that they play, he could really excel. So
do you see it? Do you guys feel like a natural partner with Hague right now, given with the roster?
They all left shot defensemen.
Really don't.
This whole
like,
is there a natural fit right now? Would Barron and Hague be a fit? Could he protect him physically?
He could. I mean, first off, that would be, I mean, you're covering up a lot of space if you've got Hague and Barron out there. Because, I mean, Barron's what, 6'3", 6'4"? So it's pretty sizable pairing you would have there. But I keep going, like, who's playing with Yossi? Again, there's free agency to come, so maybe there's still another move on defense that's coming here.
What are the chances Yossi plays the right side?
I think
at
pretty
this
high
point?
right now.
Yeah.
I think right now with the way they're set up, I think if they're starting today, he's playing on the right, which is not a bad thing. Like, I think he can probably handle playing the right. And, there are certain advantages to that with him. Like, it sets up his one-timer a little bit more in the offensive zone. It's a little bit trickier in the D zone getting out of there. But, like, there's going through their roster of like 9 guys that could. So let's think about guys in consideration to make the team on defense. We know Yossi, Shea, Haig are locks to make the team. You've got Spencer Stasny that's going to be in the mix. You've got Wilsby that's going to be in the mix. You've got Nick Blankenberg, Justin Barron. There's 7 right there. That's not even getting Molendijk, who's 8. Like, that's a lot of left shot defensemen. And basically 2 guys right now that are right shot.
Like, what was the deals for England and Osterley?
Yeah, England and Osterley are also, but they're league minimum deals.
Are they 2 ways? Could they send them down?
They could waive those guys, and it really wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah,
but they're on the roster right now, so they're going to be in camp, and we'll see what ends up happening with those guys. Like, I don't know that I necessarily factor both of those guys in terms of being like key members of the defense this year. I think in a perfect world, they wouldn't really play for you all that much. Maybe they're call-ups at some point, but like, I don't know right now, I don't know who the natural partner for Yossi is.
Speaking of Yossi, earlier, some people speculated on the text line, does this paint the picture of the Preds being concerned about Yossi, anything like that? I mean, all indications are no. All indications are they're optimistic.
I can only take them at what they've said.
Yeah, and I don't think that these moves would speak to that anyway.
No.
Now, I do think that, because I thought Aaron Ekblad was definitely someone that they should pursue, and I think he's the guy who's going to get away from Florida. But I'm assuming that that's not happening now.
We'll take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. Predators trade for Nick Haig. Plus, they drafted Brady Martin at number 5 over the weekend, passing on Porter Martone and James Higgins. We'll get into that coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Preds trading for Nick Hague last night. Jeremy Lozon and Colton Sissons being sent the other way to Vegas. And we'll see what other moves Barry Trotz has up his sleeve here. Logan on the text line, excuse me, a unnamed texter on the text line says, in Hague, did we pick up another Luke Shen for the next 5 years? I mean, he's 26, so I don't know that him and Luke Shen are direct comparables, but they do. I mean, they're both physical players, and they're both basically third pair guys. Like Hague has been a third pair guy. I think the 4 years, $5.5 million seems like a whole lot of money for a third pair guy. So that tells me either this cap going up, the Predators think that this is just what it's going to be moving forward, or I guess they may anticipate a bigger role for him here than he had in Vegas. If that's the case, that's going to be interesting to see if he's actually equipped to handle that role, because he's not really had that in his career to this point.
So if this is reflective of like what's going to happen under the cap, is McDavid getting like 30 a year? How much is his cap going up?
He's texting his agent today, like, you see what Nick Hague got?
If Nick Hague just got 5.5, I get half the city of Edmonton. Jackson says desperately need more NHL level right-handed D. I mean, look, that's like quality right-hand shot defenseman.
Yeah. Hard to find.
They're at a premium.
There was one that signed yesterday by the name of Dante Fabro in Columbus.
Yeah, there was that.
4-year deal.
There was that. Fabro, Carrier, guys who, not setting the world on fire, but
you could use them right now.
Yeah, I think they'd both probably have a spot here in this decor if they were here. But they're gone.
They are gone. Now, there's not very many right shot defensemen to speak of right now. The other big story over the weekend is they drafted Brady Martin at number 5 ahead of James Hagens and Porter Martone. As Logan points out on the text line, some people acting like the Predators have drafted David Legwand 2.0. We'll see what that ends up looking like here. But Brady Martin going at number 5. James Hagens goes at 7 to Boston. Martone at 6 to the Philadelphia Flyers. And now one of the questions is, how quickly could Brady Martin be an impact player on the team? How quickly could he be in Nashville? And Barry Trotz was asked about, his path to get to the NHL and how maybe it being a little bit shorter to go from junior to the NHL in terms of his skill set. Did that factor in to where Brady Martin was drafted? Here's what Barry Trotz had to say on Friday.
I can tell you he's one of those players that, you're going to come at training camp and you're going to go, this kid's not coming here just for training camp and development camp. He's coming here to take someone's spot. And he's very capable of it. I just believe that. Probably, we'll let it play out, but knowing his mentality, just watching him in the short time that we got to see him and everything that the scouting staff has said about him, and like he'll push people out of a job if they're not careful. That's just, I think his mentality is that he comes and brings it every night and practice and in games, and you got to be aware.
So, Joe, what do you make of the drafting of Brady Martin at number 5 and the idea of him potentially challenging for a roster spot this fall in training camp?
Well, in the second part, keep an open mind. You can't really find a roster, I don't think, in this league with more opportunity down the middle than what the Preds offer. So it'd be there's going to be a lot of attention on him, obviously, in the preseason. And you hope that at least he makes it interesting. And I mean, if he doesn't, some people are probably going to overreact to that too. Got to keep in mind his age, and then it's probably going to take some time. But yeah, I don't completely rule out the possibility. I mean, I think that, it's funny to hear Trotz say that. Trotz is, of course, one of his favorite phrases is overcook, right? Like, that kind of goes against what he talks about a lot too. But again, if this is going to be the same picture that we have now of the Preds down the middle when they get to camp, I can't rule it out at all. I can't believe it will be the same picture, but I also don't have like a great answer for like what they're going to do.
Oh.
Rossi's a guy people throwing out there as in Minnesota. Apparently, he's only 23, possibly shopping him. But as you point out during a break, it's not like he's. I mean, there's a reason probably, right?
Well, he's in the division, which doesn't preclude you from making a trade, but it probably does mean you have to pay a little bit more than somebody else would. And is he worth that? I mean, look, I know that John Hines has a way of doing things that some Predators fans around here don't like. And basically Rossi in the playoff series against Vegas, his ice time got chopped dramatically because he's 5'9", and they didn't think he was a very good matchup out there. So, like, I think Rossi's a good player, but is Rossi a top 6 legitimate bona fide threat for you for the next decade? I don't know that. I don't know that he's that. So do you make that trade and then give him the contract if that's what you want to do? If you're the Predators, like I don't know that I'd do that. And beyond that, we went through the options on free agency earlier, right? Like the best free agent centerman on the market right now that Sam Bennett has re-signed in Florida, is Mikael Granlund. And he's 33.
Get excited.
And, I mean, you've kind of seen that here before. Now, Granlund, to his credit, has actually left Nashville and has played pretty well since then in both San Jose. He was, a brief pit stop in Pittsburgh, and then he went to San Jose and obviously with the Stars. So he's played well. But I don't know that Granlund, number one, wants to come back here, and number two, that's on the Predators' radar. So if it's not going to be in free agency, which it's probably not going to be, can you make a trade? Like, that's impossible to sit here and predict that they can pull that off between now and training camp.
Right.
So with all that being said, like I'm not going to totally rule out Brady Martin coming in and maybe making things interesting in camp.
They need to try, but yeah, I think that's possible. As far as the first question, which is the drafting of him, earlier I read Scott Wheeler's analysis, which again basically goes with I think what a lot of people are saying, which is people like Brady Martin. The idea that Brady Martin was going to go top 5 was there, but you had a chance to take a potentially transformational number 1 center. Maybe he won't be that. I mean, I'm looking at this pick and I'm thinking Barry Trotz must have had misgivings about James Higgins. Obviously, he loves Brady Martin. I'm going to read Corey Proman. He gave the Preds a C+ of The Athletic. He said, quote, "I've known Martin going to the top 5 was a possibility for weeks, but I've struggled to get around to the idea. He's a super likable person and player with great physicality, very good talent base. I wouldn't call him a dynamic offensive player, though. And with average size, I just don't love this profile at 5, especially with players like Porter Martone and James Higgins on the board. The way he plays appeals to Barry Trotz. Time will tell if they left too much talent on the table or pick their Sam Bennett," end quote. And then again, you go to the Sam Bennett thing. If that's what he is, that's a good player. I still would question if that's what he is, if that's worth number 5. And Higgins will probably answer the questions more than anything. But Sam Bennett had a ridiculous postseason. He's a guy who's averaged 45 points in the regular season the last 4 years. He's a guy who is playing on an insanely loaded team with Matthew Tkachuk on his line, does not have the pressure of being a top line center because that's Barkov on that team with their ridiculous top line. And that is all the context is so important when you judge Sam Bennett. If Brady Martin is Sam Bennett, great. You'll take it. He'll be a key player for you, but Sam Bennett is not the same Sam Bennett without what's around him in Florida.
I would agree with that. And I also think that, so often we get caught up in how did the latest team who won do it?
Right.
How were they successful? Like, I remember when the Penguins won in 16 and 17, it was all about speed and skill, and everybody was trying to get as fast as they possibly could, and it didn't matter that if somebody was 5'8", as long as they could really, really skate. And then St. Louis won in 19, and it was like, well, a little bigger.
That heavy
relying
hockey.
on the goalie, some of that heavy hockey. And, it's been interesting since then because it's been, the Lightning had basically everything, and there's no weakness that the Lightning had. That 22 Colorado team was unbelievably skilled. Like, they were just – and the Predators saw that firsthand in the playoffs. And now this Florida team, is kind of like the Lightning, where they've got everything. They probably lean a little bit more towards the heavy physical side of things, but they've got enough skill, but they just suffocate you to death. So, like, I heard a lot on Friday night of, well, you see what wins in the playoffs. You see what they've done. It's like, well, yeah, but there have been plenty of things that have won in the playoffs in the NHL, right? Like, there's not just one thing that wins in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Right. And if James Hagens is like, if both of these guys reach the ceilings that are generally agreed upon by the scouting community, well, then James Hagens, as a number one center who's like a 90-point guy or whatever, 80, 90-point guy. And then, obviously you have to do that in the postseason. But if he reaches his ceiling, then, that's going to win in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a piece that, to me, again, is just more important and more impactful than what they might have with Martin.
Well, and again, I like Brady Martin. I really do. Like, when you watch him play, like, it doesn't take long for you to figure out why Barry Trotz likes him. Like, he hits anything that moves. He's got some good offensive skill to him. Like, he's not, some stone hands guy out there. He can play and he can shoot, and he's a good player. So, like, I feel pretty good about Brady Martin turning into a very good player for them. And I said it at number 5. Whoever they draft at number 5 is immediately going to be their top prospect. He is their top prospect in the organization. And I don't know that it's particularly close. So you have to keep that in mind in the backdrop of all of this. But Joe, we're probably going to be having a conversation, depending on which way it shakes out, 8-10 years from now, and we'll still be looking at Brady Martin and James Hagens and comparing those two directly as to how their careers turn out.
No question. Yeah, I mean, this is I was trying to think earlier, maybe some of like the quarterback picks with the Titans. And I don't know who among in the Preds draft history. You talked about Barkov, but again, they didn't have the chance to draft him. He was taken before they could take him in 2013. Well, who would be the closest that you can think of where, like, they passed on this guy and then everybody was watching that guy?
Yeah, and particularly in the first round, because look, there's all these stories out, like, nobody drafted Pavel Datsyuk till the 7th round.
But that's different.
Kucherov went in the 2nd. Like, those are different. Like
Legwand, they took 2nd.
Legwand, they took 2nd.
So maybe
I'm looking
somebody,
at the list. Like, the next guy, like, they had Manny Malhotra, who was an okay player. Alex Tanguay was a good player. But, like, even that one, the guy that everybody wanted was
number 1.
LeCavalier, and he went number 1. And they just didn't have the chance to pick him. So this is an opportunity where they've got the chance to pick all these guys. They didn't. And now you're directly comparing them against each other.
Maybe Suter, right? He went 7th.
Suter went 7th. But, Suter turned out to be he's a great player.
Yeah.
Like,
they could have taken Jason Robertson.
Yeah.
But like a lot of other teams.
Right.
A few years ago. But there's nothing like this.
Well, I think it's different, too, when it's a top pick. When you're talking about a top 10,
Yes.
top 15 pick, that's different than taking a stab on somebody at 22, right?
And exactly. And just my whole thing is, I just don't think this was another phrase that Barry Trotz likes to use, is big swings. He said that a lot. He had a chance at the big swing. I think Hagens was the big swing. He didn't take it.
A lot more reaction to get to with the Preds. We will do that next. Plus, I want to get Joe's take on a Stilly take from last week. That was hilarious. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Are you looking at this saying, hey, our top priority is to put a team out there this year to go compete? Or is your priority, hey, let's build this thing up in the future?
Well, I can answer that pretty easily. My priority is right now. I want to get us back into a position where we're fighting for a playoff spot. That last year we didn't get in that position. I feel if we get off to a good start, we'll be in that position. If we get to the position where we get in the playoffs, I think we can add some things because we got lots of assets. We got kids coming, and we got draft choices, all that. So I'll continue to do that. But my priorities now, with the eyes to the future, that's not anything I haven't said in the past. But I want to get the winning feeling again back here in this organization. Last year was a tough year, so I want to get that joy back. That's priority number one.
That's Barry Trotz last week on with Jared. That's the moment where you saw Jared and his soul leave his body a little bit when the priority is now in winning this year for Barry Trotz. Joe, we've talked about this for weeks now. And Stilly and I talked about this last week, so I'll give you the chance to respond. Now that Stilly has officially been moved off his 2028 is what matters for the Predators comments, thanks to Barry Trotz, your reaction to the latest development of now everybody recognizing that we're worried about the here and now with Barry Trotz.
Okay, so did Stilly actually admit he's wrong?
Yes, he said that he has got to stop acting like 2028 is what matters when the general manager tells him it's right now.
Okay. Well, then I give Stilly credit. Now, the only reaction, I never got anything like that from him. It's weird. Like the only thing I got from him was this tweet from Kenneth Schott. Is this like Marge Schott's nephew or something? Is this a fake account?
I don't know.
This is he tweeted at Jared Stillman, even when the Preds were awful last year and had the losing streaks, Mason and Gill and Rexrode and Donick never said anything negative about them. They're all homers. Jared's the only one who tells it like it is. Like that, there can't be a person who actually came up with that thought, is there?
I mean, clearly.
Where's Robby? Does Robby tell like it is, or is he a homer? This is what I need to know this.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
And also, again, there's not a more homer take on the whole thing than, well, if the Preds get 85 points next year, I mean, that's fine. And Barry, we'll give Barry till 2028. It'll be fine. Let's see how these prospects
The average
work
is
out.
4.79 years.
Yeah.
4.79 years.
But so he's sending me this late Friday night. So apparently he's not falling on the sword with me. So I'd like a personal apology to my face.
Well, maybe we'll get that this week.
Maybe. I mean, I will ask for it Wednesday on Jared versus Joe. But I'm glad to see that, Stilly has decided to come off being the island of the biggest homer in town. Like Willie was like, oh my God, Jared, you're like way too much of a homer.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people, a lot of different thoughts. First off, appreciate the participation today. A lot of thoughts rolling through the show all show long, and we're going to do it again tomorrow. We'll have the beginning of NHL free agency tomorrow. We'll see if there's another move made by the Predators today. So lots to react to, but the general thought on the Hagens Martin part of it seems to be less of a problem with Martin and more of a problem with just not taking Hagens there. Like I saw too much over the weekend of ragging on Martin. Martin's a good player.
Yeah.
Like I think you need to go, if you haven't watched him, you need to go watch him. He's a good player. It was more about the opportunity missed on Hagens, and we're going to begin to see what that looks like.
Yeah, there's some definite exaggerating going on with some Preds fans about, just Martin being this fourth liner. I mean, that's not what he is. He has offense. But I'm going to again read Scott Wheeler. Keep reading athletic segments here on the draft.
You do.
But he says when he talks about the Bruins, quote, I'm very confident James Hagens will be a riser in a redraft when we start doing these for this class years from now. I think people are going to come to the realization as early as next year when he's one of the best players in college hockey and stars against the World Juniors. Bruins need a premium potential top lineup forward and preferably a center. I think it could and should sail over the wall for a home run, end quote. That is my bigger problem than anything that we could say about Brady Martin.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the big swing. Could he be wrong? Of course he could. We could all, who knows? There's a third rounder in this draft that could be a shocking star in this league. We don't know.
Riker Lee may end up being a 100-point guy. Who knows?
Absolutely. So we don't know. But again, based on the information available, and yes, I am swayed by this highlight reel I saw of Hagen's put together. I'm like, my goodness, that kid's ridiculous. But this is where they're going.
Hey, I will say development camp begins today. I am more interested in this development camp than I have been in a long time for a Predators development camp.
Yeah.
I remember when like Seth Jones first showed up and like the rink was packed for a development camp. I don't know if it's going to be that way here for Brady Martin today, but they got the prospects game coming up later this weekend, but I'm excited to get out there today, see what Brady Martin looks like. And as you said, Joe, I mean, today, I still think there'll be some trades made around the NHL, and then you got free agency tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of player movement the next 2 days. Do the Predators get involved with that to a further degree than they are right now? And specifically, do they get involved with that at forward? Because if not, like if this is the majority of what they're going to be at forward heading into camp, then I think every option is on the table for Brady Martin. And he's 18. It's a lot of, and by the way, he's 18, just turned 18 in March. He's born in 2007, if that really makes you feel old. But that's where they're at with center right now. It's not a good spot that they're in with the center ice position.
No. Paul says you guys aren't homers at all. Thank you, Paul. And then he says some other people who are homers, but we'll just keep it positive.
We'll keep it positive. A lot of reaction all day long here on 102.5 The Game. Tune in with us all day long. We'll keep you updated on the latest moves around the NHL as well. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.